I'm Albany Bureau Chief John Lentz with City and State, and for today's episode of City and State TV, I'm joined by Lou Coletti, the President and CEO of the Building Trades Employers Association. Thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here, John.
And recently, Governor Andrew Cuomo weighed in on an issue you care a lot about, the Scaffold Law, and said it's just not happening this year. What's your reaction to that? Is any reform to that law likely at all this session still?
Well, we're not going to give up. Several months ago, the governor said publicly that he was open to scaffold reform, but he needs a partner. He needs the legislature to be his partner, and I think his recent comments are reflective of the fact that he doesn't have a partner in the legislature. And I give him credit for calling it the way he saw it, which is that the New York State trial attorneys seem to control the state legislature. No, I have not given up. We're not going to give up. But I thought it was an accurate assessment of where we are today. That may not be where we are at the end of the year.
Sure, and he did say, as you pointed out, the trial lawyers are the single most powerful political force in Albany. Do you think that's actually true, or is that a little bit exaggerated?
No, I think that's very true. When you look at the total political contributions they make, they're on the top of the list every year. And you can never really figure out how large their contributions are, because it's not only the trial attorneys pack itself, it's the individual firms that get it that are separate and apart from them.
One thing the governor also said, that this is not a top priority for business groups in the state. Do you see business groups pushing this as an issue? Do you think that's a fair assessment by the governor?
No, I think this is a major business issue for every industry. This is not just a construction industry issue. It affects economic development. It affects businesses of all sizes, suppliers, contractors, real estate owners. It has an enormous impact on the cost of economic development. So, and there are other industries that are affected beyond construction, farming, believe it or not. So I think this is a very broad-based issue to a number of businesses in the state.
Sure, and then also at the New York City level, I think allies that you have and perhaps yourself have tied this to school construction. You know, if we're going to have all these new pre-kindergarten programs in New York City, as well as other expansion of affordable housing, how would this law tie into those issues?
Well, without reform, you will have the ability to build a lesser amount of classroom seats. You will be able to build a lesser amount of affordable housing units. It has an enormous impact. Insurance costs have gone from about 2 or 3% of hard construction costs to 8%. The city is already close to its debt service limit and capital spending. This just drains the taxpayer of money that should go directly to facilities that will improve the quality of their life and into the pockets of the trial attorneys.
Another factor here is the governor didn't include this in the budget. You said, you know, you support the governor, but he also needs an ally in the legislature. Without those two things, you know, it wasn't in the budget. You don't really see anyone in the legislature championing this issue. What is the path forward here?
I wish I knew the answer to that. We're going to continue to press our case, and I think right now the ball's in the legislature's court. The governor did seriously consider putting it in the executive budget, but again, he needs a partner. There's no sense putting legislation in the Senate or the Assembly or putting something in the executive budget that you know has no support. I think it's a tragedy. It's an economic tragedy. It's a human tragedy. You know, the legislature passes goals to establish and grow a minority and women-owned businesses. Well, if they can't afford it, can't get general liability insurance, how do my contractors hire them? They won't. You can't build in this city. You can't build in this state without general liability insurance. So it has enormous economic ramifications.
And if there was some way to make this move forward, is there any sort of compromise you think that could be made here? Are there any sort of, you know, package of bills that could allow this to go forward? Some horse trading on any?
Well, I think there's a lot of commonality, and no one's talking about the commonalities. I think those on our side of the fence, the contractors, agree with labor that it is our responsibility to provide a safe work site. We believe that there are safety provisions that perhaps could be added to this. We believe the insurance industry has, there needs to be some level of accountability for the insurance industry. So I think there's a number of areas where we could reach an agreement, but it's all contingent upon the fact that we change the strict liability standard to a comparative standard.
Sure. Lou Coletti, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, John.